Woke up this morning with the sun down, shining in.
Last week's show was one of my favorite episodes of the Roy Smalley show. Roy Smalley's chin music. Roy got to telling stories, and we went way back and told stories about Freddie Lynn and Vin Scully and Dave Winfield. If you didn't listen, go back and listen. It was great stuff. It's usually the kind of show we do in the off season when we can just, be goofy and talk about Paul McCartney and all kinds of other stuff. And we decided to do it last week just because of the College World Series and Roy's experience playing against Dave Winfield and the Gophers. We're going to get to a few more current events this week. It feels like almost a crisis point for this year's team. Do want to tell you that you can find all the shows at talknorth.com. Subscribe at iTunes, subscribe at your favorite podcast app. Also, if you would, for our sake and yours, download before you listen. Downloading helps my business. It also gives you the best listening experience because you will not be interrupted by any Wi-Fi vagaries. You will just have a clean listening experience. So if you can, click one extra time and download. Thanks to Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com for sponsoring the program. If you'd like to advertise with us on this show or the network, email me, jsouhan47@gmail.com. Shows are really starting to fill up now. I highly recommend advertising with Roy's show because the people who listen love his show. They love what he has to offer. And you might want to get in before we get all filled up. So I've been telling people for months, still got to be patient. When am I going to be wrong? When is it too late to tell people still be patient?
Well, again, if you take the big picture view here, and I'm not being Pollyanna, I just mean the reality of the big picture is not I don't know it's a question of patience now. It is, it is or isn't for this year. But the thing that's on my mind more than anything else is who are Buxton and Sano? That's the major question, and to some degree Kepler. And so if those guys turn out to be just average players, and average for each one of those guys is, maybe it's a big league player, but its average is not anywhere near what anybody has thought is in store for those three guys, and in store therefore for the ball club and the performance of the ball club. And so if we look at it from the standpoint of this season, they haven't had the lineup that we expected them to have. I mean, last year, if you think about what production offensively they got from Jorge Polanco, not here. Byron Buxton, the second half of the season, not here, and when he was here, he was hitting $190. And add Sano, who didn't play the second half of the season much, but you say you expect him to play, and now the addition of Sano into that mix is significant at what you think Sano is going to be. Kepler, who had a nice second half of the season last year, except against left-handed pitching. Now he's hitting 3-something against left-handers and we can't figure out why he's not swinging the bat well against right-handers. So it's understandable for me this year why things aren't going as well because they don't have the lineup we thought they were going to have. I mean, just plain and simple. You look at the lineup now without Sano the way we thought he'd be, without Buxton the way we thought he'd be, with Kepler hitting 220, with Brian Dozier hitting 220. Rosario and Escobar have been carrying the club, and that wasn't the recipe for this year. But beyond, so I'm almost willing to say they got hurt by the injury and or steroid bug again. Santana out, Polanco gone, Buxton hurt, all those kinds of things for this year. So there's kind of some reasoning behind why they're 7 games under 500. But I'm not worried about this season. I mean, I'm worried about it's a total reset if Buxton and Sano aren't who we all think they're going to be.
And adding in Mauer's injury, where he went from having a high on base percentage and not looking like himself. This is supposed to be like an 8-deep lineup, and it's been a 2-deep lineup.
Well, that's exactly right. And so you say, what people ask me, what's wrong with the Twins? Can they get it turned around? I don't know. I mean, it's just not. It's not the Twins. It's not the lineup that we thought that they were going to have, and so I have moved on from this year, and not that not that I've given up, not that it's that. I mean, I hope they catch a spark, and we see a great second half from Maurer and Kepler and Dozier and Buxton and Rosario and Escobar continue. Then I think they'll make a nice run. Maybe those things will happen, and maybe they won't. I'm way more concerned about who is the real Buxton, who is the real Sano, and can Max Kepler take the next step that we kind of expected him to take this year.
No, you're right. And I think, having talked to a bunch of people in the front office recently, I think that's exactly their mindset. Yes, of course they want to win this year. Of course they want to take a run at it. But if Buxton, Sano, and Kepler aren't going to be the players they were projected to be, then this whole plan is going to have to change dramatically and in a hurry. I mean, it's without doing something, without getting some real luck out of young guys in the minor leagues that are ready really before you would think they would be. It sets them back 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah, absolutely. Damn.
Well, right. I mean,
we all want to see good baseball,
and that's why it's not that I have given up on them or don't care about this season. I just care so deeply that these young kids fulfill the potential that they have. That's because I want it for them, but also because yes, we want to see the kind of baseball that we were anticipating seeing from these young kids.
Let's go to the right side of the infield. I wrote a piece over the weekend. I talked to a bunch of people, including Dave St. Peter, on the record, and the vibe I got was that while a lot of people are kind of writing off Dozier, just assuming he's going to be gone in free agency in a year, and writing off Maurer, assuming he's going to retire or that they wouldn't want him back. This drives me crazy too, Roy, because, in my business, you have to tweet out the link to your story. That's just what everybody does. And it's amazing how many people on social media will read a headline that you didn't write that's attached to the link that you're sending out, which is a 22-inch story where you talk to like 18 people to come up to some kind of a reported conclusion, and all anybody wants to do is react to the headline. Nobody actually read what I wrote. They thought it was some hot take about Maurer. It wasn't a hot take. I was talking to people about what might happen, and I was somewhat surprised to hear how many people in the organization were saying, well, yeah, we would like him back, and, I don't know what that would cost. I don't know how the negotiation would go, but we value him as a human being. We value him as a smart veteran player on a young team, and, yeah, you're not going to pay him $24 million again, but, there might be a deal there to be made. That was the context of the deal. So let's have you visit the right side of the infield. Do you have any opinions, feelings, feel for how things might play out with either Dozier or Maurer?
I think that it's in each in its own way. It has to do with dollars. Obviously, it's going to be up to Joe whether A, he wants to play, B, how badly he wants to play here, and C, what he'll settle for. He would be a very valuable member of this club next year. He could still get a big base hit or walk. Still high on base percentage guy, very professional guy. He's going to play terrific first base if you need him to do that. You could, if he were all right with this. I mean, in the larger picture, I could see Miguel Sano being the first baseman, making room for Polanco and Escobar and or one of the young kids, Gordon or Royce Lewis or somebody coming up, which now maybe affects Brian Dozier. But in the meantime, you have Sano playing first base, better defense on the left side of the field, and then you have Joe playing late inning defense if you really, if you need that. So if you feel like you need that. So I'm sure that they would like to have Joe back. I'd like to see Joe come back. It'll be a combination of how badly Joe wants to play and how much he's willing to play for. Certainly. Brian's a little bit of a different animal. His uncharacteristic, I should say, uncharacteristic plate performance this year. But we've seen this before, 2 or 3 years in the past, where he has these kinds of first halves and then goes off in the second. So that story's not written yet, in the fact that he's hitting 221 instead of 320 or whatever it is he's hitting, in 220s instead of the 320, or even 290 with 25 home runs already, makes the value at the trade deadline, a little bit more suspect for other teams. Obviously, another team to give up something that would be worthwhile for the Twins to do is they're going to have to make a leap of faith that this is a 3-month aberration for Brian, and it's worth giving up a top prospect. The Twins or a top player. What the Twins are, I think, probably comparing it to is, okay, I get a first-round draft pick if I lose him. Mm-hmm. How does what I'm being offered in return for Brian here in July compare to my being able to have this draft pick? Is this number one draft pick worthy of what I'm getting back? And then it's how soon can this player that I'm getting in return help? And is that combination better than a number one draft pick that I'm hoping will be in the big leagues for a long time, 4 years from now? There's all those kinds of things that obviously enter into it. But I think those two positions certainly, as per your article, I mean, those are in flux. There's no question it could go. It could go any way. But if the Twins don't trade Brian, I suspect he'll be playing for somebody else. Next year. It'd be my suspicion. I think he'll move on.
Or they can make him a qualifying offer and keep him for one more year.
Right.
At a high single season salary, which they would be able to afford. Right. And let's actually get more into that. But we are late in mentioning Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com. Your friend Steve Brem. We've talked about their marketplace stuff. We've talked about their restaurant experience. I just want to highlight the fact that even though we always talk about the Berry Coffee blend, which we love so much, you can get pretty much any high quality brand of coffee you would like when you deal with Berry Coffee. I wish both my workplace and the place I live had Berry Coffee, because it would be better than what we have. Berry Coffee blends, Caribou Coffee, Dunn Brothers, Peace Coffee, Starbucks, City Kid Java, Seattle's Best. So pretty much everything.
And their own, our favorite, their Bull Run.
And their Bull Run
house
blend.
Blend.
Yes, which is under the Berry Coffee brand, which is what we love and what you might get in some of the finer restaurants around town. They also whole bean coffee, Berry Coffee whole bean, Caribou, Starbucks, Peace, City Kid, Dunn Brothers, all whole beans. They have Shangri-La teas, Oregon chai, Bigelow, Good Earth, Tazo, Caribou tea. They have creamers, sweeteners, syrups, instant beverages, juices, specialty drinks, waters, sports drinks, single-serve K-Cups, Flavia and Altera, soda. I said soda funny. That comes from living in Minnesota for a while, soda. Cups and lids, paper goods and janitorial service, products, and snacks. You can get pretty much anything.
You said soda, which is what I've always said. Being from California, I came here and I was supposed to say pop.
Pop.
You get pop.
You got to get
pop.
pop.
You got some pop.
You got to put the pop in the bag. So check out berrycoffee.com. They have all the information at their website. They can give you a quote on how you can work with them. You can check out the history of the business, the good works they do. Again, we highly recommend them as a company, and we love their coffee. The other interesting dynamic about Dozier is that, so like you mentioned, Nick Gordon. Nick Gordon tore it up at Double-A this year. He's now playing in Rochester and doing okay, but not great. So it's not like he's knocking on the door quite yet, although they certainly expect him to be a big part of the future. Royce Lewis is, I think, about to get moved up to High A, Fort Myers. That'll probably happen sometime in the next few weeks if he continues to play well. And he still might be, as a high school kid who's in High A, he might be 3 years away.
Oh, sure he is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it would be meteoric.
Yes.
For a high school kid to be there sooner than 4 years.
Yeah. So
I mean, if that's Mike Trout stuff,
right.
It just doesn't happen much.
Exactly. And we learned with Byron, who's a hard worker, a great kid, coachable, and has incredible athletic ability. We projected him to be something like Mike Trout.